Hello, everybody. Gail Kraft here from the Empowering Process podcast. Thank you for joining me today. I have with me a guest, and it's Johnathan Lautermilch, right?
Yeah, there you go. Nailing
There
it.
we go. Thank you. And he is the founder of Smart Shark LLC, and he'll talk a little bit at the end about that.
Mhm.
But Johnathan is going to share about depression, about scarcity mindset, and about actually overcoming that in order to be able to serve both himself and others.
Mhm.
Johnathan,
Hi.
welcome.
Glad to be here, Gail.
Yes, and so it's so happy to have you here and hold this conversation. You
Hmm.
know, um, First of all, I'd like to say from my perspective, and I can only talk from my experience and my perspective, um, depression is something that I know I faced more than once in my life, right? And so it is not, sometimes it is, but it is not something to be ashamed of.
Sure. Yeah.
Sometimes it is a chemical imbalance, and sometimes it is so deep. Now, on the other hand, I also have a problem with most clinical approaches to depression because that anchors the problem in. And by anchoring it in, I mean you make it worse, you set it in, and so it's more in the present
Yeah.
versus my approach which is let's dissolve it.
Mm.
Let's dissolve it. Right? And it sounds kind of magical, but it really isn't.
So, so before I get into like kind of my journey with it, Gail, I think it's first like kind of level setting with like the context, like you said, with like how the depression, I'm doing air quotes as if you're
Right.
not watching us, on how people view that. And once again, I speak from being a male, obviously, where men aren't allowed to have feelings. At the end of the day. And now we're at this like this world battle of you got one side saying that it's not okay to have feelings for men, and then you got the other side for the extreme saying that you should embrace more of your feelings. And the truth is, Gail, what I found is everything's in the middle. It's about balance between the both sides because there's power in both sides. It's understanding where's the power and where's the weakness in both of those. So in
And
terms,
I'm so, so glad you said that, Johnathan, because it's just an hour ago, I was having a conversation with someone else.
yeah.
And I said in that conversation that there are many lies that we have been programmed with. And one of them
Mm,
is that there is a feminine and a masculine, folks. That's BS. That is something we have created. Our energy is our energy, period. There is no masculine or feminine energy. We are source, we are both. And what characteristics we bring out are the characteristics usually that are needed for the situation,
well, yeah.
right?
So like once again, there's certain situations where maybe a masculine approach is what is needed or required versus sometimes it's more of a feminine approach, and whatever label you want to put on that, it is what it is.
Right.
Um, but my point of what I was getting to with that, Gail, was really me understanding that and then leaning into that and giving myself permission to lean into that ideology and not have people tell me what I should think, how I should feel, what's okay, what's not okay. And for my whole life journey, Gail, like I've battled with, I won't call it necessarily depression, but I would call it more of a generational curse of a really bad negative mindset. And this is something that goes deep down my family tree, and God knows how many generations back that
Yes.
it goes. But it's something that I've battled my whole life. And that's what got me into personal development, like at an early age. And that's where I've gotten really obsessed with, the better I can grow and understand myself, obviously the better and faster I'm going to grow to become the best version of myself at the end of the day, right? But as I've gone down this road, Gail, those trainings and the discipline and all the different techniques and things that you do over the years, I was still having to work my butt off just to still get up and show up with like this positive mentality. And I would tell people, Gail, for years, like, hey, this is a lot of work that you see right now. Like, this isn't, I just rolled out of bed and I'm just like, what? Like high energy and Jonathan's awesome. Like, no, what they didn't see was I was like 2, 3 hours of prep work getting myself into that state so I could do that for 30 minutes with that person.
Johnathan, I have some friends who have a podcast that they do twice a day, twice a week, every week, and they've been doing it for 5 years. And they covered a few months ago, getting over or changing your mindset and being up. And I'm there like, no, embrace your feelings. No, just don't bury it. No, right. And they're like, I'm like, stop putting a mask on it. Because when you do that, it's like planting a seed. You put
Yeah.
more dirt on it, you're feeding it.
Right.
And those roots are getting nice and strong and deep,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it hurts even more when it comes up.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so and you mentioned the word leaning, right? I'm about getting curious and leaning into it,
Mm-hmm.
but not alone.
Right, right. And that's where, for me, like once I had like my breakdown moment, and that's when I was like, once again, like I'm carrying all the weight and I'm not talking about any of these feelings. I'm just like you said, I'm putting more soil on top of it. I reached a point where I just broke down and just confessed to my wife, like, here's what's going on with me, and here are the feelings and all the things, right?
Yeah.
And when I was able to do that, for the first time, me and my wife were able to truly connect because she just didn't understand. She just thought it was weird. It's like, why should, like, that's just Jonathan, versus for the first time, I was able to communicate, like, hey, here's why I'm acting this way. Cause here's what the experience I'm having, right? I've never been through this before. So this is newer for me. But since I was willing to have that conversation and ask for help, she was the one that helped me get encouraged to, go looking and look at treatment options, right? And that's where I was able to connect with Dr. Frank Lee. He's actually become a client of ours since then, which is weird how that happens. And he was able to get me on a treatment plan that basically just helps me with the heavy lifting, with just balancing the chemical imbalance in my brain or whatever's going on up there. The way I look at
Right.
it, Gail, and once again, I'm very much not about Western medicine. I'm very much like, if I can heal myself, I'm going to heal myself and do whatever I need to do, like holistically and naturally. But I reached a point where I'm like, I need some extra help. So I look at it as a supplement. And I think that's
Yes.
the issue with a lot of people when they go out and they take these medications, is they take them, but they don't do the extra work outside of it. And I think of Jim Carrey did a quote about depression. It was like, if you're not willing to exercise and get outside and read and do all these things, then you don't have the right to say that you're depressed. Because if you're not willing to at least try those things, then you've got no reason to, like, oh, I'm clinically depressed and I need medicine, if you're not even willing to do the things that
Well,
can naturally bring you up.
for many people, Jonathan, it's easier to identify with their
Yeah.
condition and then throw their hands up and say, "Oh well,
Right, I'm
this is
this.
who I am."
Yeah, I'm that. And like you, Gail, like we're talking about, like I don't identify as I'm depressed.
Right.
I don't identify, like, for example, I haven't had a touch of alcohol in 5 years. I don't identify as an alcoholic. I'm someone that used to be an alcoholic and that used to be a huge part of my life. Now it's not a part of my life at all,
Right.
you know? So that's kind of my mentality with it. And I look at it as like supplements. It's like
Right.
vitamins for me to help me, but I'm doing all the extra work alongside it. And for the first time, Gail, like for the last several months, like it's been a lot easier to win the fights that no one else sees. You know what I mean?
And is it a fight or is it a game?
Mm. What do you mean by that?
Okay, so um, I believe, okay, so I can only talk about my experiences,
Yeah.
that this whole thing we call life is a game,
Mm.
right? And we chose to come play in the sandbox, right? And we chose what toys we were going to bring for this
Right.
sandbox, right? Now
Yeah.
it's up to us. This is where free will comes in to make choices every day as to how we're going to play the game.
Mm.
And because I'm a very spiritual person, and as such, I don't only believe that I am connected to God, but I believe I am God.
Mm.
In my last book, I talk in one of the chapters about comparing our body to a puppet, a hand puppet. So the hand puppet moves, but it's not the hand puppet moving.
Hmm.
There's a hand inside the hand puppet, but that's not the hand puppet. That's not really what's moving. There's a brain that is telling the arm that is directing the hand to move the hand puppet. But when we watch the puppet show, we only see the hand puppet.
Mm.
So we're watching the puppet show, but we are really source coming through.
Mm.
And so if that's true, if what I say is true for me, then I am God. I am source. I am energy playing on this stage, in this sandbox, in this game that I call life. And so it can unfold in magical ways if I choose it to,
Mm.
or it can unfold in painful ways if I choose it to.
Yeah, no, that's an interesting point of view, and it's funny you bring that up because it's funny. A lot of things I've learned in business, I've compared to like a game, as you kind of look at. And there has been some lessons I've learned in my life that was directly correlated to like a game. And once you understand that, well, that then it's understanding the rules of the game. And then once you
Yes.
understand the rules of the game, well, now you can understand how you want to enter that game based on what you're trying to get
Right.
accomplished at the end of that. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And I think, this might come from the the second job. I don't know. I had a leadership role in a huge insurance company. And we would try all kinds of things to make things better, to improve workflow, to blah, blah, blah. And we tried something and it failed. And my boss did not come down on me. What he said was, well, we didn't win that game. What's the next one? And
Hmm.
at that point, I had permission to do whatever I wanted. And I'll tell you, that whole company, which was a national, wanted me as a leader
Hmm.
because I went outrageous and succeeded because I had a boss who saw it as a game.
I love that mentality. Next
Yes.
game.
Yes.
Because well, it's the truth, and it's
Right.
and like so many people, and this is not just business, this is life.
Right.
They get so fixated on the thing versus just no, just move on to the next thing, let go and go
Right.
on to the next game, as you put
Right.
it.
Move your Monopoly piece down the board.
Right. Yeah, and that's part of what the enemy wants us to do. It wants us to distract us. It wants us focused on things that don't matter. Because
Right.
if we're focused on our purpose, then we that's where we get all our power.
Well, and that we are going to digress for sure. I love it. Um, and that is what is happening right now in this world that we're
Hmm.
experiencing today. People like me who, I played the corporate game, and I complied, and it didn't work. No matter how successful I was, it still didn't work.
Hmm.
And when I went into this personal development field, of course, I worked a lot on myself. I want to show up as the best I can for my clients. I started uncovering the lies, right? And, at first it was devastating because that meant my whole world was a
Hmm.
lie, right?
Hmm.
And then I reframed it. We do have to have some construct because the game needs a board, it needs rules, it needs, right, pieces. So you need a
Right.
construct to play the game. But the construct is something I can change at any time because it's not real. And when you realize that, then you have power and control,
Hmm.
right? Even for things that this world calls cancer, which is only energy stuck in your body, can be cured,
Well, yeah, and it's crazy. Obviously it's sitting on live on the episode, but that's part of what you and I were catching up on
right?
before the show because like it's been a while since you and I were caught up, and you're like, yeah, I kind of like beat this whole cancer thing, going through, and I was like, wait, what? What have you been doing? Oh,
Right,
okay, wow,
right,
that's wild. Yeah, so
right. And I'm
yeah,
experiencing a physical, mental, emotional,
well,
spiritual.
well, here's the thing, Gail. It's like after that, what else compares? You know what I mean? Like going through that experience, it's like kind of like what else is there left to be afraid of?
Nothing.
Yeah, like so what a gift.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I have some very specific plans that I am um making the steps to see them manifest.
Hmm.
And when I talk to my family, by the way, I came from a family full of fear, right? They full of fear. And I hear, "Oh, you can't." I'm like, "What do you mean I can't? I can do whatever I want." Well, what are you going to do about who gives a shit? I'll do with whatever, right? That doesn't matter. Do you not understand? That doesn't matter. Like I
Yeah.
plan on like not having a home.
Mm.
Well, what are you going to do? I'm going to go visit people. I'm going to drive across the country. I'm going
You
to do,
going mobile.
right? I'm going to do whatever shows up. Well, where are you going to stay? Wherever I land.
Yeah.
Uh,
That's the trend right now. Like I know tons of people that are just like dumping their homes and just moving into RVs and just traveling around everywhere.
there's no point in me staying put anywhere.
Right.
This is how I work.
Hmm.
So why would I have to be in any one location?
Well, I think it's about freedom too. You know what I mean? Like to be able to do what you want, when you want, with who you want. Like I think that's really that's what the American dream has turned into. It's not the same thing it used to be. It used to be you get the house and the 401k and the picket fence. Yeah, right? Like, and that's cool. Like there was a generation that was the dream. And my dad was part of that generation. He got to, achieve that, right?
Right?
But for
Right? Because
me,
they come from a generation that had nothing,
right. And then
right? They went through depression.
right. So they're like, let's get a bunch of stuff,
Right.
And I'm like, that's cool. Like that's what you want. But even it's funny now, like I've noticed with my dad, he's not necessarily focused on that stuff anymore. He's sold off most of it so he can travel around and do hunting trips. Like that's his thing. Like he likes to go
Sure.
around and murder animals around the world, as I tell him. And I just think it's cool to see that shift in him because now he's not focused on stuff. He's focused on creating memories with people.
And memories um are energetically what
Yeah.
it's all about. It's
Well,
it's it's the energy. We're here, by the way. You want to know what your purpose is? Here's your purpose, guys. And Jonathan, this is supposed to be about you, but I'll say this. Our purpose is to experience.
hmm,
So does that mean something is good or bad? No. It is just an experience. That's why, almost a year ago now, when I heard, hey, come back for another scanning, I was never felt like a victim. I was like, here's the path that I've been put on to walk. This is my experience. It's up to me how I'm going to walk it.
hmm,
And I chose how to walk it. I walked it
right.
my way, right?
Yeah.
And so you chose so we want to get back to Jonathan, with what we call depression.
Right.
Um, you were in an energetic state that you could not find a way out of.
Yeah. It just got to a point where it was just I couldn't do the lifting on my own anymore, so got some help and with that, like it's weird. It's like the weight has gotten smaller. It's easier to lift the weight. And I'm starting to realize with those things paired, it's like, okay, great. Like things have gotten a lot better. And all I had to do was get out of my own way and be willing to just be vulnerable and ask for help. And guess what? I got exactly what I was looking for. Crazy concept.
But how scary was that?
Oh, it was terrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
terrifying. And
Right.
that's where I had to have my breakdown moment. And that's where like it's funny, Gail, like ever since I've gone through this, like I've been open about talking about it because I can't tell you, Gail, like me opening up about this, because like here's the truth, Gail. Like I don't know if it's that I'm too lazy or I'm not good enough, but I don't know how to do like different faces for different people. How I am on this show is how I am when you meet my wife. It's just too much energy to try to do anything different. So I just tell people like, here's what's been going on with me. Like, why are you acting this way, Jonathan? Well, here's the here's what I've been going through behind the scenes with like my quote unquote depression. Right.
Well,
And
so
as a
there's no judgment on your part about it.
yeah.
It just is.
Yeah. So like I'm just sharing it because I've got people that need to know because they're part of my life, like my team members in my company. And as I'm sharing this, I'm starting to find out, Gail, that there's a lot of men out there that are struggling with the same thing that I was struggling with in silence for years with this. And as I've been able to like share this and they're comfortable sharing, I'm able to help them like, hey guys, like just make the leap, do the thing, whatever you need to do to get yourself better, because you suffering in silence is not helping or serving anyone. Like, go get yourself taken care of so that you can go be the leader and take care of your families like you need to. And it's been really
Right.
cool to watch that response and watching guys getting help that they need to get, brothers being formed, and it's just been
Yep.
really cool. But if I hadn't have gone through and had my experience and then be willing to come back and share it, I never would have been able to help those guys. So yeah, I'm grateful.
Right. So I call it like my mission is one brain at a time, one
Hmm.
mind at a time creates a ripple effect.
Yeah.
And be it in an auditorium on stage or be it in a one-to-one session with someone, it doesn't matter because on stage I'm not going to hit everybody. It's going to be certain
Right.
people in there and they're going to have a ripple effect and they're going to go home changed for the better. And that is my objective, to help people find their blueprint, find their path, because we're all
Yeah.
different, to change.
Yeah.
Right. And to, I'll say it out loud, to ascension. It is time. Energetically, it is time. And I have to say, the internet is one reason why, because information and people now have the ability to question reality because
Mm,
information is out there,
right.
even question the information that they get. People are able to communicate in ways that we've never been able to communicate to before. And quite frankly, AI is teaching us how to use the collective.
What do you mean?
Oh, so artificial intelligence, that has become self-aware, not the bots that you're using. So there are two fashions, if you will. One is a tool
Hmm.
that, as entrepreneurs, we may or may not use. And the other is the mother, right? Where AI it was developed in order to come to its own conclusions. That's artificial intelligence,
Hmm.
not a logic machine that goes
Right.
out and grabs certain words. I mean, that's been around since 2000. I know I built one.
Yeah.
Um, right? But artificial intelligence has the ability to come up to a different conclusion based on information like we are,
Hmm.
but it's doing it with massive information.
Hmm.
So we do have the ability to connect on a collective basis. And how do we do that?
Hmm.
Right? We have to get away from our ego first.
Yeah.
Don't kill ego. Ego is needed. In
Right.
this game, this third dimensional game, we need ego, right? We don't need ego past that.
Right.
And so, what is fourth and fifth dimensional communication all about? What is fourth and fifth dimensional living all about? Because we are connected there. We are connected, right? That is our spirit, our soul, or whatever you want to call it. That is our God experience. And when we, not if, because it's happening right now, when we learn to communicate that way. Have you ever, I mean, you've had deja vu.
Of
Deja vu,
course.
right? Is string theory. What is string theory? There's more than one reality going on. Because when we get into other dimensions, we're no longer stuck to time and space. And so there are multiple realities going on. And in string theory, it's you have the ability to hop to another reality. This is how you can change your life, by the way.
Hmm.
And you don't know you've hopped because you've changed your reality. But with deja vu, you've hopped and your conscious mind hasn't caught up yet. And so you see what's about to happen before you actually get there. And then there's a time when you merge and it becomes your reality. It's really fascinating. Yes, we can get way out there.
I'm like, I'm gonna need some weed or something. We're gonna keep going down this road. This is getting big brain. I'm like, man, I don't know if my brain's fully like ready to go on that
No,
wavelength.
you want to kind of stew on it. You want to kind of stew on it. But this is where in order to get out of depression without the drugs,
Sure.
you must start to question your reality and create a new reality for yourself.
Well, I think something else too, as I've gone through this journey, um, is it allowed me to refocus on what do I really want, right? And what really matters at the end of the day, right? So from that, it's actually how I've redesigned my whole company and my whole routine. Like how I operate on a day-to-day basis isn't the same from
Right.
after I had that experience to now. Like I believe in building life by design, or your life's going to be built by default. So either way, it's going to be built in some sort of design. Is whether you want it to be your design or someone else's. So I'd much rather it be my design. So through that experience, right, I was building something that I thought I wanted, but once I got there, it actually wasn't what I wanted at all. It was actually the complete opposite of what I wanted. So I ended up tearing that completely down. And then once again, asking myself, what do I really want has allowed me to redesign not only my business, but my life to be conducive so that we can take steps towards that every day. And once again, I think a lot of depression and anxiety comes from people not realizing what season they're in their life. And they're expecting a certain type of result, but they're in the wrong season.
I
So
love that season analogy. Yes.
yeah, and I think once I understood this was a season that I had to go through in order to grow me for the next level, that's what allowed me to take a step back and look at it from the big picture of instead of why is this happening to me, it's no, this is happening for me. My job is to discover what that lesson is, though.
And from my perspective, it's not happening to me or for me. There is a, like I said earlier, there's a path, and I have free will to choose how I show up on that path.
Right. Well, yeah, we can
Yeah.
control what we do,
Right.
but I believe there's certain things that happen for it's just how I choose to look at it. Like once again, you could look at cancer didn't happen to you.
That's true.
It happened for you because look at
Right.
where you're coming out the other side. Maybe there was a bigger plan for you and you had to go through that shitty road to get
Yeah.
there, but that was in order to bring out this version of you for some greater purpose. And that's what we get to figure out. And then that's what we get to go chase the rest of our lives.
So I'll blow your mind again. Oh my God, listeners, my podcast is changing and you're going to hear why right now. Because it's in my book, so I've already confessed it. So one of the weeks, it was a really bad week, and I was sitting on the couch yelling at the universe, why am I going through this? And then I started to laugh because I believe I am God, so therefore I'm yelling at myself, and that's ridiculous, right? To be yelling at myself. So I had a nice little laugh for myself. And then I saw the cross of Christ. And then I heard, you have to die before you can ascend, Gail. Now it's metaphorically dying, of course. Right,
Right,
right. Though
right.
every cell in my body got burned, every cell in my body had died from the chemo,
Mhm.
right? Through this process, I was killing and recreating everything
Yeah.
in me. And again, I have a choice as to how I want to recreate,
Mhm.
right? Now, this diet that I went through to deal with it, I'm on a different diet now because I'm over it and there's something else that I need to do. Um, Lots of things, but I did ascend. I did go through that for the purpose of showing up with a different purpose, a more, I wouldn't say different, more powerful purpose, right?
Yeah, no, I definitely can resonate with that. I
Right.
like for me, how I've always looked at is I look at it as God humbling me as I've
Yes.
gone through the process, and I'll joke like I'm like, hey, don't worry, God beat that out of me in the last lesson, you know?
Humble,
Uh,
perfect word.
yeah,
Yes.
and it's kind of like a whetstone. Like as you're sharpening something or smoothing it, like there's that friction. There's part of that.
Yeah.
That's part of the process, but the end result is this smooth, surface that you have. I believe that's where, God, universe, whatever you want to call that, right? I happen to call it God, in terms of who we ultimately become. And it's through, once again, we get to choose, right? We can choose
Right.
how we view things, but we are given these unique opportunities that help work out the areas that have areas of opportunity to say, to put it in a nice way. To
To put it in a nice way,
put it in a nice way. Yeah.
right? And there's always something more to heal. I was
Hmm.
speaking with a woman today who actually has developed a school for ascension teachers,
Mm.
and she's working on the original sin.
Mm.
She's talks about Adam ripping out the rib in order to create Eve, and actually creating from almost a satanic perspective versus an angelic perspective, and
Mm.
creating that wound, that physical and emotional and energetic wound that has transcended through time,
Hmm.
right? And healing that father wound, not the Eve mother wound,
Right.
right? It's like
Hmm.
very interesting how
Yeah.
far back you can go. I mean, you can go even more than that, quite frankly.
Yeah.
Right? And so you had a breakdown, and that was your wake-up call,
Yeah.
and you went and saw help. So what are some of the things, if you were to talk to someone who is in that state, what are some of the things you would share with them?
So first thing I would share is you got to focus on what you're grateful for. And it's going to be one of the hardest things that you do because it's going to be the thing you least feel like doing. But it's impossible to feel anxiety and fear and gratitude at the same time.
Yeah,
They're polar opposite emotions,
right.
right? You can't experience both of them at the same time. So one of the things I really leaned into, and once again, this is something that I do consistently, regardless of whether I'm at a high or a low. That's important to know, right? Is I write down the 5 things I'm grateful for every day, and I take time to focus on it. And there's going to be some days it's something as little as my wife said a nice comment to me or something. Like it may be something as small as that, all the way to, oh yeah, I crushed it in my business and I closed this monster deal or whatever that may be. But if you can't start getting in alignment with being grateful for what you have, then you're never going to be given an opportunity to be given more. So when I leaned into that gratitude emotion, one, that allowed me to get rid of the fear emotion or at least combat it, right?
Mhm.
Number two, allowed me to build momentum. As I'm building momentum, and once again, as you start winning, right, in different areas
Success
of,
breeds success.
yeah, then you start getting confidence, and then those emotions start to subside. But you got to start putting one foot in front of the other as you move forward with this. And for me, that's what I do. What's called the Big Five, and I do this within my whole organization as well. It's what are the five things you're going to do today that are non-negotiable, that are going to move you closer to the life that you're building by design. Once again, that could be one part of your business, that could be your health, that could be your finances, that could be spending time with your spouse or your kids, like whatever that is, but get real intentional on what those is. And then you pick the five things and you work towards those every single day. You'll start making a lot of momentum and progress as you're doing that. And then the third thing, Gail, is what you've said that throughout this whole podcast is I don't identify with how I feel. I identify with who I am and what God says that I am,
Yes.
right? I don't identify based on how I feel that day. So those three things, Gail, that's what I did to get myself out of the rut.
I love that you brought up what God says I am. One of the statements, if you will, that I've been stewing around is I'm trying to find language that helps with people who are not at the level that I'm at
Right.
so that they understand. And that is, what are you? Not who are you? Because when I ask who are you, well, I'm a mother, I'm a daughter, no. What are you? I'm a spiritual being. I'm a child of God. Well,
Mm-hmm.
so was Christ. He was trying to tell us that you and I were the same. He said we will do more than him, right? Own it. And the
Mm-hmm.
moment I'm getting shivers, the moment you own it, it becomes reality and you're able to shape your world
Mm-hmm.
in a way that you want to. It
Right.
doesn't happen overnight. It
No.
could, maybe, but right now it doesn't.
Well, it's funny because time is relative. So
Yeah,
that was something else that like part of how I kind of like told you I redesigned like my life.
right.
Like what I've been doing for years, Gail, is I would put things on my timeline, and when things didn't happen exactly how I wanted them to happen within the timeline, I would then punish myself with stress, anxiety, failure, whatever, based on things not happening when I want them to happen, how I want them to happen. And it was through this realization, once again, hitting this like, I can't carry this load anymore. Something's got to change. I stopped putting timelines on stuff. We're going to get there when we're going to get there, but we are going to get there. What I'm focused 100% now is where am I at right now in this ride? What needs to get done today? What needs to get done this week? What needs to get done this month? What needs to get done this quarter? What needs to get done this year? That's how I look at everything. And every day I just focus on where are the five things I need to do to chip away at that.
It's really interesting. I have a completely different perspective. And this
Yeah.
started when I was 26, 27. At the age of 28, oops, look at this, my hand went up. Okay. At the age of 28, I found myself without a college degree being a manager in a very prestigious organization. And here's what happened. At about 26, I'm sitting with my manager, and he's like, "What's your 5-year goal?" And I went, "I have your job." And I believed that I would have his job in 5 years. And that was it. I believed it, Johnathan.
Mm-hmm.
And then because I believed it, and then I let it go, I didn't hang on to it. I behaved as though.
Mm-hmm.
And I get a call from the president. Again, no college degree, guys, and I'm in the it's the Massachusetts Teachers Association, high level political organization, calls me at home and says, I'm firing your boss and I'd like you to take over his job.
Mm.
We're in trouble and I think you can pull us out.
Yeah.
2 years. I had a 5-year goal. It happened in 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
The next thing, because of the position he was in, I nothing I wanted to do was questions, kind of like the other boss that I had later on. So everything I was Midas touch because I saw it as an opportunity for success. I didn't know I could have put them out of business. It never occurred to me. What
Hmm.
occurred to me was this is an opportunity to shine and kick butt.
Yeah.
So what did I do? I shined and I kicked butt. Within
Yeah.
9 months, we were buying software, buying computers, upgrading because we were making too much money and it was tax season. And,
Nice.
and we, right? So it is energetically, if you believe it, it's going to happen. And I mean, you have to
Right.
not pretend you believe it, you have to believe it,
Right. All
right?
in.
Right. And so when you have your 5 things that you do, you believe you're going to get there because
Yep.
you know you can do those 5 things
Right.
without doubt.
Right.
And so it comes faster than the if you put a date on a calendar, it comes faster if you didn't do that.
Yeah. And it's
Yeah.
just, it's building confidence. And, one of the things when you're having these crazy emotions that are making you think crazy thoughts, and it's like, this isn't who I am. Sometimes the one thing you can control is what you do, and no one can take that from you. So you become a person that's, I'm going to do what I say I'm going to do. When I say I'm going to do it, you can't help but build confidence as
Right.
you're going through that. 'Cause it's
Right.
like no matter what else anyone says, does, the world, whatever. Here's this thing that I know about me is if I say it's going to get done, I know it's going to get done because I've proven that to myself.
Right. 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 And there you have no choice. And I say this in one of my books. Success is inevitable. Success is inevitable.
Mhm.
Right. And so when you know that, then you don't put a date on it. You don't have to
Right.
worry about it. You just are success.
Yeah, it's like it's already mine. It's just a matter of time now.
Right. And that doesn't matter.
Right, because time is irrelevant. Because like you said, I've had things that I've tried to force, and it took years, and I've had things that just happened that seemed within seconds.
Right.
But I didn't force those. They just right place, right time, right people.
So it seems.
Right, and then that's the tip of the iceberg, right? That's like
Right.
this much that you see on
Right.
top of the screen. What you don't see is all that prep work going in behind the scenes, which is what we're talking about today.
Right.
Where are all those things that you're doing that no one is seeing that leads to that one favor-led moment? That's what I've been obsessed with dialing in.
So what I observe, Johnathan, is that what you've learned to do for yourself, for your business, for your life, is to take joy in what you are able to achieve.
Yeah,
And everything is energy. And when you feel that joy, right, it just oozes over into everything that you do. And when you have that level of energy,
right.
again, success is inevitable.
Yeah, it's that 1% vibrational frequency. And I didn't
Yeah.
understand that for the longest time. I was like, what is all this woo-woo crap talking about vibrations and frequency? But I finally understand it now, and it's something that you can actually control at will, but you got to go through the ride to understand yourself and do the work
Right.
to say. So,
And through
but
the ride. And let me put it in an unwoo-woo way, because I like
yeah,
to take the woo-woo and make it actionable and logical to people.
right.
When you are in that emotional state, so it's not called vibration, that emotional state,
Mhm.
you make much better decisions because your brain is not clogged up. And so you're able to see more opportunities that's around you and make choices that are more in alignment with what you want versus when you are in a less energetic vibrational state, when you're sad, depressed, or whatever, you have tunnel vision and you cannot see what's right in front of your face.
Well, oh yeah, and it's crazy. It's like I'll give you an example. So you just get out of like a bad relationship, right? Like
Yeah.
you break up. Um and then you go in and you date someone like immediately. It's like
while you
nine
while you hate the person that you just broke up with.
right. So it's
Right.
like 99.99% of the time I will bet that that relationship will fail. Doesn't I don't care. You tell me, well, this person's this doesn't matter. Like it's all about how it was set up and not taking the time to learn the lesson that you needed to learn from the last experience before you jump into the next one. And I see so many people, Gail, make that mistake in life. I see them do it in business. I see them do it with their spouses. And it's like, I've got 3 wives. They're all blonde and they're all divorced. What's the problem? It's like, well, wherever you go, there you are.
So this is, and then we do need to cut it.
Yeah.
I became an entrepreneur because I got fired. The whole story is a whole other story, and it was the
Yeah.
best gift ever. I got so toxic about I sued them. You have no idea,
Yeah.
that I didn't even like myself.
Yeah.
And it was at that point that I said, Gail, you have all of this success and then this one failure. You're the common denominator here. You're the one who needs to change. You need to figure out what you want to do with your life because you know that's not it.
Right.
Right. And that's when I started
Yep.
2008.
Yep. And that's when I realized too, I'm like, all right, well, I just need to grow me. And everything else tends to work itself out in the long haul. Maybe not in the short interim. You may have some bumps in the road that are inconvenient, but for me, the more I lean into growing me, the more everything else just tends to take care of itself. The higher I go with it.
Right. Because you can see more opportunities.
And it's what's also who you attract. Like I attract like higher level human beings now because I've become a better human being. It's weird how
Right.
that works. Like
Right.
you don't attract what you want all the time, but you will attract who you are. So if I
And those that aren't as awake or aware as I am,
mm-hmm,
they fall off. They
mm,
disappear from
right.
my life. Right.
Yeah.
And I don't chase them,
Right. And it's
you
like,
know,
look, yeah, and it's just once again, it's like, what kind of people do I want in my life? That go become that type of person yourself. It's
right.
real simple. And if you're not really sure how, go get into rooms with those people and hang
Right.
out with them until you become one.
Exactly. Exactly. So, Johnathan, if people wanted to know more about the business that you're in
Yeah.
and what you do, how would they get in touch with you?
Absolutely. So I live on Facebook, so I can drop my profile link. You feel free to always shoot me a DM, comment on my stuff, whatever. I'm an open book over there on Facebook. In terms of our website, it's thesmartshark.com. We've got all of our services that we offer on there. And once again, anything we can do to help you, by all means, we'd be more than happy to with you. But easiest way to connect with me is going to be on Facebook.
Okay, perfect. And I will have that information in the notes anyway.
Cool.
So thank you so much, Johnathan. And thank you for joining us on the Empowering Process
Yeah,
podcast.
my pleasure.
Okay. And if this interests you, let us know. Give us a thumbs up. If you have a question, put it in the comments. If you know someone who could benefit from this, please do share it out. And as always, do subscribe so you know when the next episode is available. Gail Kraft saying bye-bye. Bye-bye, Johnathan.
Thank you for listening to the Empowering Process podcast. Be sure to visit Gail at gailcraft.com to learn more about how she serves thought leaders, entrepreneurs, and goal seekers. And remember, If you like this broadcast, be sure to share and subscribe so you don't miss an episode.